Hi friends, hello the world. Welcome back to this episode of podcast on tools for transitioning humanitarians. And today I wanted to talk about one of the fundamental tools that I think we're not even aware that this is a tool, but somehow we tend to like take it for granted and just use it against ourselves, to beat ourselves up when needed or to stop ourselves when needed and just feel like we don't really have control over. And that tool is our thoughts. As shocking as it may sound, thoughts can be tools if we use them intentionally, especially. And I really want to dedicate a special episode on this because, well, A, I work with thoughts most of the time, and B, also, I really feel like we take our thoughts as something that is just the truth in the universe, and this is how it is. And then we just even believe that everyone else might probably have the same thought or similar way of perceiving things, and therefore we just struggle a lot with it. And also, we don't really recognize what we can do about them if we don't like living under consequences of those thoughts. Okay, so that is the topic, you all. And that's why I really want you to think about your own thoughts as we go through this process so that you can start looking at how your thoughts are actually tools that you can do, use it in the way you want to, or not use it in the way that is not serving you, and just decide what to do about them, right? So I will be covering what thoughts are, um, why they're important, and what to do about them if you're having difficulty with them, basically. So, and also in the transitioning period, in the transitioning times, especially, there will be lots of thoughts around how it's unpredictable, how it's unstable, and all the things, and we can deal with the thoughts as well. So that's why having the thoughts as or conceptualizing them as tools that we have within us that keep flowing, that keep coming, and what to do with them, and how to manage them, how to allow them to guide us through whatever we're going through is so crucial. Okay, so thoughts, these are sentences or phrases that keep appearing in our brains, right, in our minds. And we are probably aware of maybe a few percentage of them, and most of them probably have been going on in our unconscious mind as well that we're not even aware of. So, thoughts are simply things that keep coming up. I think of them like, the running sublines or headlines in the BBC or CNN or whichever the news channel you watch, the running headlines that just keep telling you what the news are, that just keep running. And I imagine thoughts being like that. They just keep coming and coming, and oftentimes they also represent the unconscious mind's messages to be coming to the awareness, right? And then we may even notice some of them, like being very aware of them, but maybe many of them we're just not even aware. We're not really paying attention to them. But what's so interesting is that they are the origin, they are the like the running force of our lives, right? They are running our lives the way that they are running now. They are the ones creating uh, um, the feelings. They are the one creating the habitual patterns. They are the one creating the results, the outcomes of our lives, the way we like it or don't. They are all the origin of everything. So if they are so crucial in our lives, how come we really haven't been taught or haven't been really trained to look at what are they and how are they influencing me? Do I really like being influenced by these thoughts or not? And the other like fascinating thing to me is that we tend to even get like thoughts from other people without even being aware of, without really like paying attention to them, and then just internalizing them and then thinking like they're our thoughts. We don't even realize that the thoughts that we have given by other people, that we should question them, that we should like look at them and say, is this really what I want to have? Is this really how I want to be governed by or not? Right? So we don't really take much time to think about or to um, pay attention to their influence on us. At the same time, we keep then complaining about, we keep then suffering through the consequences of those thoughts. So that's why, my dears, I really want you to think about what are your thoughts that you are being governed by currently? Are they really your own thoughts that you have consciously decided to think them, or are they the thoughts that just kept being given to you by other people? So let me give you some examples of how I have realized a lot of my thoughts that were so suffocating, so toxic in my own body were given by other people, that I just took them without really realizing, without really like paying attention to, and I just kept beating myself up with those thoughts without even realizing them. So some of the examples that I have noticed is that that the thoughts that I have just taken and internalized is that I'm not worthy of this, or uh, I'm not a good person, or I'm not allowed to do this, or I'm not um, I shouldn't be behaving this way because good people don't behave this way, right? So these are the things that I have like just taken from my parents, from other adults, from other people that I have had in my life somewhere along the lines, and I just have taken them and then just took them as like for granted. I just decided that this is how my thoughts are going to be, and then I just never even questioned them until recently. And then once I just kept like using them to beat myself up, meaning that, oh, if I do this, then I must not be a good person. If I do this, then I must not be worthy. Or if I do this, then someone will be offended. Or if I do this, then this person will not talk to me anymore, right? So once I like notice the consequences, the influences of those thoughts, then I realized, my God, I'm like suffering so much from those um, prohibitions, those rules, those things that I didn't even invent, but I just somehow internalized it, right? And once I realized that I have been suffering so much from all of those rules that I didn't even realize I had them, once I realized what they were doing to me, then I decided, no, I want to be very intentional with my thoughts. I want to be very conscious with my thoughts of what is it really going on and why am I thinking them? Why am I using them against myself, or why am I prohibiting myself to do XYZ? So that's why I really want you to think about, you will be having like like me, like many, like probably most of the humanity on earth, you will be having thoughts about five things usually. And the first one is the facts. You will be having thoughts about facts. And the way that it will look like this is that, let's say that you weigh, I don't know, 60 kilo, or let's say 70 kilo. And then let's say that you have a thought about it being that you are fat, or you are ugly, or you are not attractive, or you have certain body parts that you don't find attractive, or maybe the opposite, that you find it's amazing weight, it's finally the weight that you really want to, it's the weight that you are so grateful for, right? So you see that depending on how you think about that number, because it's a factual thing, but how you think about it determines how you feel then. Right? So interesting thing is that we have like so many facts in our lives, yet the way that we think about them are so different. And even within one person, like I used to think about myself, my like physical appearance, the way I'm looking now. There used to be time I used to hate the way I look. I would think about, oh my God, I look so ugly. I can't believe that this is how I was born. Why was I born? All the things. You all talk about trauma and drama and all the things. And the same appearance that I have now, I think about myself, my appearance, like physical appearance, which is a factual thing. I think about my physical appearance now as being very beautiful, as being very, I'm so happy that this is how I look. You can see that my thoughts about my appearance used to be different before, and it is different now. So you can also think about like any areas of your life where it's a factual thing. Maybe it's something related to your age, maybe something related to your appearance, maybe it's something related to I don't know, certain diagnosed illnesses, whatever it is that you have that's factual, and then check with yourself how you think about them. And depending on how you think about those factual things, it will determine how you feel and how you show up in that area of your life. Because I remember when I was thinking of myself being very ugly, very not attractive and all the things, and I would beat myself up for why I'm this and why I'm that. And when I remember those days, I remember also terrified of being shown or seen in the public, terrified of speaking up my mind, terrified of even like going on dates because I would be thinking the whole time what the other person's thinking and how they must be thinking I'm this and I'm that, right? You can see that how much those initial thoughts influence the way that we show up or not show up, how much it also inhibits in our lives in other areas. And that's why we really want to look at what are our thoughts about our appearance, our factual aspects of our lives, and what are we thinking about them, and how are they influencing the way that we are behaving now, the way that we are showing up or not showing up. Okay, so that's one thing. One thing that we have lots of opinions or lots of thoughts about, and then what are we going to think about instead? The second thing that is that we will be having lots of thoughts is about our thoughts. I know it sounds like weird thing to talk about, like how can we have thoughts about our thoughts? But that's so true as well, that we have thoughts about our thoughts. So one of the like common um, common examples that I can give you is that let's say that we have thoughts about our abilities. Excuse me. Let's say that we have our thoughts about our abilities, that we're not good at something. Let's say at, I don't know, playing tennis, right? This is our thoughts. We're not good at playing tennis. We believe that this is our observation. And maybe it is our observation, but still the observation is being formulated by our thoughts, right? It's our observation is being formulated and expressed with our thoughts. Now, someone else may have a bit different formulation of our ability of how we play tennis, but still, this is how we are believing or we are observing and evaluating with our own thoughts. Now, then we have a thought about I don't want to be bad at playing tennis. This is another thought about our thoughts. So first we evaluated and then said, well, this is our thought. And then now we're saying to ourselves another thought about that thought, which is, I don't want to be bad at it. I want to do something about it. So that may be useful. So we may look at it how specific as to what to do about it and what not to do about it, how to improve, and we can get very specific about it. But there are also other areas of our lives that I'm seeing that we are really like so adamant about our thoughts and we don't want to change them, even though they're not really helping us, even though they're not really moving us forward, but still we're so adamant in keeping our opinion about ourselves the way it is. So the other opinion that we commonly have about ourselves is that we are not good at following through, or we're not good at finishing things, right? I hear this a lot in with my clients, is that, oh, I just started and I lose interest or whatever things, and then I just stop or whatever thing it is. And whenever we keep that thought of, I'm not good at following through, if we're transitioning, if we're going through certain changes, then our brain will be always trying to find evidence as to how we're not following through so that we can go back to the 0, 1 where we have started. Right? So unless we change our opinion about ourselves to something else. So whenever we are having this thought of, I'm not good at following through, and then we start doing something, and then we will then say, okay, because I'm not good at following through, then I will just definitely fail. I will not do something, or I will not get to what I want to, and therefore I rather not start it. Do you see what I'm saying? So there is a thought, the initial thought, and then we make the verdict that because of this thought, the other verdict is we can't really do anything about it, or we can't really change that, or we can't really change to what we want. It's like one-time verdict, one-time thought, and then we keep repeating, we keep believing it so much that it becomes like, this is how it is. Even though we could have another thought about that verdict to say, no, this was one time, or this was before. Now I want something else. We could do that. But somehow we don't want to do that because we just believe that thoughts can't be changed. But if you look about it, if you really think about it, thoughts are just options, just like it's just out there, and we can just choose one or the other. We can just choose to change today or tomorrow. Maybe some thoughts we don't want to change because they're so important to us, right? So maybe some of the values, some of the principles that we have that we don't want to change because they represent who we are. And that's amazing too. So this was the second that we have opinions about or thoughts about. And then the third one is the thoughts about our feelings. And this, I think, is like the biggest hurdle that we have in transitioning or in pursuing any goal is our thoughts about our feelings. Because our thoughts about our feelings usually are, if you are like many other humans like that I have met and coached, our thoughts about our feelings are usually something like this, that they just happen to me, feelings just happen to me. I don't really have control over them. They're just there. I'm afraid of them, or some of them, especially we're so afraid of fear. We're so afraid of disappointment. We're so afraid of humiliation. We're so afraid of overwhelm, confusion, right? Because of our opinions or our thoughts about those feelings, or we are even like so uh, adamant in believing that we lack self-confidence, we lack some other tools, we don't have this XYZ feelings, so that we keep those opinions, or we keep those thoughts about our feelings, and therefore we are not willing to do anything about them. Even though those thoughts about our feelings could be, no, I have observed that until now I wasn't able to really be in charge of my feelings, or I wasn't really able to understand my feelings. But now I can. Now I can have a look at them. Now I can start learning them. Now I can start feeling them. Now I can start experimenting with them. Now I can start intentionally feeling things that I want to. We could really change those thoughts about our feelings, but we don't tend to do that because we just believe our thoughts to be true, right? And the fourth is the behaviors. Behaviors are, I think, so important. Reflection and expression of how we're thinking, and from behaviors we can see oftentimes how we're thinking, right? Maybe sometimes we don't see it, but most of the time we see how someone behaves. We can see what they're thinking, how they're feeling, how they usually think about themselves, how they usually feel about themselves. We can see from those behaviors. And our thoughts about our behaviors also determine whether we can change or not our behavior. Because if we believe that this is a behavior of this is how I am, this is who I am, of course, we're not going to be able to change it because we're believing our story so much. Our story or thought that this is just who I am and how I am. I won't be able to change. I can't change myself, or I can change this behavior. Or if we change that behavior, it feels like so existential, maybe, that we just say, this is how it is. Even though our thoughts about our behaviors could be, I can change any behavior I want, but somehow we don't want to do that. Why? And that's very interesting, right? But still, I just want you to, I'm not suggesting that you change everything or anything about your thoughts. I'm just saying that look at those thoughts as options to see if something that you are not liking, you have the ability to change them. And one of the hurdles to changing those making those changes that you're really wanting, is one of the hurdles is really our thoughts. Because if we believe that we can't really change that behavior, then we won't be, no matter how much we try. Sometimes we may get surprised, but usually, for instance, one of the behaviors that I observe that people believe can't be changed is smoking or drinking or eating, maybe even like eating too much, right? We believe that we can change. We believe that diets don't work. Yes, diets don't work, but our thoughts around those behaviors can be changed. Our thoughts that are creating those behaviors can be changed. But we don't really think about them because these thoughts have been practiced so much that they became like beliefs. And because they're so beliefs that we don't even see that they're beliefs. We don't really see that this is a belief that I'm believing. We just take it for granted. We just like, this is how the universe is, or this is how the truth of the universe. So, my dears, I really want you to think about behaviors can be changed by two things. One is our thoughts about those behaviors. We can change them, and we can change the origin of which thought is creating that behavior. We can look at them, we can change it, so that you can start changing the behavior as well. So one of the ways that people have like reported a lot, that I think we know a lot about, is that when someone gets diagnosed with something, right? So let's say cancer, and then the doctor says this is what it is, and then the doctor also recommends not to smoke, for instance. Many people have just decided, no, as of now, no smoking. It's not because the diagnosis made the magic happen, or it's not because the doctor made the magic happen. It's because of our thoughts. We decided this is it. If my smoking contributed to my cancer, no more smoking, right? It's because of the thought that I need to do something to change, or this is it, no more negotiating. We just put our foot down. And these are all thoughts. So the last point of where our opinions or the thoughts are, because I'm interchangeably using our thoughts because they're also our opinions, right? The thoughts about our results, about our outcomes of our lives, or about how we're living our lives currently. We tend to often believe that we are not somehow, um, excuse me, we're not really playing the active role in how our lives are. We just tend to like flow in life and then just get to where we are. Maybe many of us have done that, but it's just if if that's the case most of the time, it's because we have really not consciously made decisions, right? Outside of those extreme cases where we have like no control over wars and other tragic events that happen in our lives, outside of those realms, there are lots of things that we have actively contributed to creating the life that we have now. Yes, we are not in charge of where we're born and whose family we're born to. But once we started being in the adulthood life and we started looking at um, the results that were being created, they have been created by us. They have been created in interaction with the world, but still created by us, even though we maybe haven't really like consciously looked at how we're creating. And they were created by our thoughts. And the same goes for depending on how we think about our current results. So if we think about our current achievements or current life, current work, current relationship, if we believe that they just happen, we just didn't do really much and we just followed this and followed that, then we're not really taking ownership of how we created them. We're not really taking responsibility of how we created them. We're just like saying, I don't know, this has just happened. And this is again also a thought. But if we really get conscious of how we are creating what we are creating and what thoughts are creating those, then we decide if we don't really want that result, the reality that we have, then we can decide to change that reality and go somewhere else or to do something else, transition to something else. But again, it all depends on how much we believe, how much we think that we can change those realities that we have now or not. If we believe we can't really change those realities, then we won't. But if we believe that we can, then we can start doing something about it. So you can see that in all of these 5 elements, thoughts are always there, depending on which thoughts are creating those, but also which thoughts we have about them currently. So, my dears, don't forget to understand that there are thoughts that we keep thinking and we keep like being governed by currently, but there are also thoughts that we can intentionally think about, intentionally decide to go to. And I really wanted to bring this and conceptualize this as a tool for you to understand how you have the default position where you have lots of thoughts about your current life and the current uh, um, your thoughts about your facts of your life, about your feelings, about your behaviors, about your how you create outcomes and results. And then there are also the intentional thoughts available to you if you want to go and decide and say, how do I really want to think about this fact of my life? How do I really want to feel? Or how do I want to really think about my lack of self confidence? Do I really want to continue believing that? Or do I want to change it? The same goes for the behaviors, right? Do I really want to keep showing up this way or do I want to change it? Do I really like this behavior or don't? And if I don't, I can change it. So how am I going to change it? The same goes for the results, the reality that you're living in now. Do I really like my reality that I have now? Do I really like the money I'm earning, the work I'm doing, the impact I'm creating? If not, I can change them as well. Because I have created the reality currently, now I can create a different reality if I wanted to. So let me start working on how to do that. So you can see that once we start getting curious about how our thoughts are governing everything in our lives, and what thoughts are governing our lives, then we can just decide to go to another thought that we like most and best. And we can start looking at and then experimenting with those thoughts and start looking at how that thought feels and how that thought brings us to the results that we want. Now, one um, aspect that I really want to help you understand is that some thoughts are so emotionally charged, meaning that they have lots of feelings attached to them. For instance, some thoughts feel very painful. And in those situations, it's so crucial that we really need to feel those feelings before deciding what to do with that thought. So that's something that I really want you to start realizing and looking at. What are the thoughts that are very painful for you? And how can you feel them and forgive and let go and move to another thought? How can you move from certain thoughts to other thoughts by intentionally deciding, how do I want to feel about this? How do I want to feel about this thing that happened? How do I want to feel about my goals? How do I want to feel about my transitioning process? How do I want to feel about my work? And then moving yourself towards it. And I really, really encourage you to get coaching so that we can have a look at what are the thoughts that are really making you suffer and what are the thoughts that can help you move you towards less suffering or towards the life that you're wanting and get you transition from that suffering to less or no suffering at all. How can we get you uh, to the life that you're really wanting to live by looking at the thoughts that help you get you move there instead of trying to fight with the external world, instead of trying to um, change people's opinion about you or trying to manipulate how you can change their opinions. Instead of doing all of that and focusing on the external, let's look at the internal of what are the thoughts that can get you be even stronger, that can maybe possibly drop your stories around how you are unable to do whatever, or maybe thoughts that we can let go of that are making you feel victimy, and go to the place of feeling powerful so you can get to the life and living the life the way you want to, feeling life the way you want to, and behaving in that life the way you want to. So, my dears, if you're interested and ready to get coaching by me, message me, send me an email, or go to my website and book a call. Until then, stay safe, have an amazing weekend, and I will see you next week.